Most people don't think of Better Call Saul as a love story. This Breaking Bad spin-off has no real sweep-me-off-my-feet romance. But if you look underneath all of the law, crime, and of course the rise and fall of Saul Goodman, there is a relationship sitting at the center of it, which is both real and intimate, and tragic. Because Jimmy and Kim don't fall apart in the usual ways. They don't drift, they don't stop loving each other, they're not constantly at each other's throats. If anything, that's kind of the issue. This is a relationship built on understanding and loyalty, but also on something much more dangerous than that. And by the end, you're not really asking what went wrong, you're asking if it was ever going to go right. So this is my take on the tragedy of Jimmy and Kim. It's easy to miss the cigarette. It's a recurring symbol, but it's subliminal. It never draws attention to itself. It's always just there. A moment between moments. Two people standing next to each other, not really saying anything, just sharing the same space. But that cigarette isn't just a habit. It's doing something. It's always shared, half each. And that detail matters more than it seems, because the feeling that defines their relationship, that pull towards something just outside the rules, that little rush, it doesn't fully exist for either of them on their own. It only really works when it's between them. When it's split, it feels manageable, defensible even. On their own, it would be harder to ignore and certainly harder to justify, but together it feels lighter than it should. Like it doesn't quite count, like the cigarette itself, passed back and forth, never fully claimed by either of them. They don't do this alone, they share it. And in sharing it, they kind of dilute it, take the edge off. Something that should feel dangerous starts to feel normal, even intimate. That's what the cigarette really is. Not just adrenaline, but shared adrenaline. No one has to fully own it. It lives in that space between them, and that is precisely where their whole relationship exists. In that in-between space where things feel slightly unreal, slightly more forgivable than they should be. That's the real addiction here, not the thrill itself, but the fact they experience it together. It feels like something to go back to again and again until eventually there's no version of it left that isn't split in half. No way to face it properly, no way to hold it on your own. Just something passed between you until it runs out. Jimmy and Kim don't love each other in the same way, and weirdly that's kind of why it works. Kim's love is quiet, controlled and measured. Her love language looks like showing up, being there, staying. Jimmy's love is louder, messier. His love language is creativity, humor, risk. He pulls her out of herself. He doesn't just love her, he activates something in her, and she does the same for him, because Kim is tightly wound and disciplined and cautious, and Jimmy lets her step outside of that. With him, she doesn't have to be perfect. She doesn't have to follow the rules all the time. She can just let go a bit. And Jimmy? Well, Jimmy gets something he's never really had before. Someone who actually believes in him, unlike the other people in his life. He gets someone who sees all of him, even the slip in Jimmy part of him, and she stays anyway. For a while they balance each other out, but slowly, and you barely notice it happening, that balance shifts, because the same things they give each other start to turn. Freedom becomes recklessness, and stability becomes permission. And without ever really addressing it, they stop keeping each other in check, and start dragging each other further. What makes their relationship so compelling is how close they seem. They share everything, at least on the surface. They understand each other without needing to explain things, but at the same time, they don't tell each other everything. Doubts don't get spoken. The fear gets pushed down. Those moments where something feels off, they just sort of move past them, because saying it out loud would change things, which neither one of them wants, and so they stay in this strange balance where everything important is felt, but not really said. And it might feel like honesty, but is it really? I think real honesty would bring something that their relationship can't really handle: accountability. One of the nicest things about them is that they don't judge each other. At their worst, they don't pull away. They don't condemn. They stay. Is that what you call unconditional love? If so, it's unconditional love at a cost. Because if there's no judgment, there's no limit, no line that can't eventually be crossed. Over and over they reach points where they could stop, where they could walk away. But they don't, because stopping doesn't just mean ending the behavior, it means losing this thing that they have together. And for a long time that matters more, until it doesn't. Until the consequences stop being distant and theoretical, and become real and permanent. And once that happens, everything collapses. And unlike the rise, the fall happens all at once, because there's no soft landing to reality, no runway, just a drop. It's tempting to look back and to try and find the moment it all went wrong, like maybe there's a particular turning point or one mistake that changed everything. But honestly, there isn't one, because this didn't become a destructive relationship. It was a relationship built out of destruction, from the ash of Chuck, Jimmy's brother. In many ways, it was born out of resentment, grief, and everything Jimmy carries from that. The tragedy isn't just that it ends, it's that it was always going to end, and I think at some level they both knew that. And then there's what happens after, which might be the worst aspect of this, because once they're apart, you really see what they were to each other. Which brings us to this. Jimmy doesn't move on, he sort of disappears. I guess in some way he hides behind something louder, which is when he really leans into his alter ego, Saul Goodman, because he may be heartbroken, but
Saul Goodman.
The thing is, Saul is just a performance, a mask if you will, something that means he never has to sit still and think about any of it. Every joke, every bright suit and tie, every briefcase full of cash, it feels like noise, like he's trying to drown something out, because without Kim, there's nothing grounding him anymore, no one who sees him as Jimmy. So he stops being that person completely. And Kim, she goes the other way. Where Jimmy becomes too much, she becomes much less, quieter and smaller. She builds a life that's safe, predictable, and completely empty. A void, really. She's with someone who's relatively kind and normal, but just wrong for her. And you can feel it in every scene. There's no spark, no risk, no life, just going through the motions. Because the version of herself that felt alive only existed with him. That's the real tragedy here. Not just that they lose each other, but that they lose who they were together. And there's no way back to that. Not without everything else that came with it. It's frustrating to watch. And then they see each other again, without any performances or pretenses. This is just good old Jimmy and Kim. And for a moment it almost feels like something's been restored. You know, he's not Saul anymore, she's not hiding anymore. They understand each other. They even forgive each other. And it's meant to feel like a good thing, I suppose. But it doesn't, not to me anyway, and not to a lot of people. And it's hard to pin down exactly why. They share a cigarette just like they used to, but this time it's different. There's no thrill, no edge, nothing waiting on the other side of it. It's just two people remembering something that doesn't exist anymore. And then she leaves. And this time, that's it. It's for good. Not because they've fallen apart, but because they can't be together. Not really. So there he is, in prison, facing 86 years. Not as Saul, but as Jimmy McGill. And Kim, she walks back out into the world, alone. And as the audience, you don't feel relief, you don't feel closure, you just feel the absence of something that used to be alive, messy and dangerous, but real. You want the colour back. You want to see the version of them that lived somewhere between right and wrong. In this moment, you value freedom a lot more than security, but that version of them is gone, and it's not coming back. Thanks for watching, guys. This was my 4th video on YouTube. Previously, I've made character analyses of sitcoms, specifically The Big Bang Theory. I plan to return to sitcoms while also looking into a wider range of TV and film. My videos tend to be reflective and psychological. If you're interested in that kind of thing, subscribe, and let me know in the comments what you'd like to see next.